This interview with Eddie Lundon of China Crisis was recorded at the Half Moon pub in Putney in October 2022. It's brought to you by Make a Difference with Records in conjunction with The Creative Well. Make a Difference with Records is a second-hand record store based in Godalming, Surrey, which donates all its proceeds to the Surrey mental health charity Catalyst. The Creative Well provides professional services supporting the mental health and well-being of those involved in the music industry. Follow us on Instagram under Make a Difference with Records, where you can also find updates on new stock and future podcasts. Right, so I'm Anthony from Make a Difference with Records, and I'm here with Nadine Page from the Creative Well, and we're lucky enough to be here with Eddie Lundon, who is the more handsome, more erudite, funnier member of course, China Crisis, and we're here in the Half Moon pub in Putney, a very well-known music venue. So, Eddie, we're going to talk about, kind of more recent activity and plans for the future a bit later on, but I wanted to start with a question really around mental health, because I think Nadine may have explained to you that basically we raise funds through selling second-hand vinyl from our store in Godalming to support a mental health charity, Catalyst. And so we're really using music that you guys make to raise funds for the charity. Nadine here with her organisation is very much focused on providing professional services in the mental health field for people in the music industry. So there's a natural synergy for there. Now,
absolutely,
I know you guys have been, passionate about the whole mental health issue for some time. Can you just tell me why it's important to you?
Well, let me first of all touch on, since the COVID thing as well. First of all, I've been working at the Paul McCartney Institute as well in Liverpool. Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts for nearly 20 years now. And obviously in that time, there's been a lot of students come through, and certainly since post-COVID and everything, or during COVID, it just escalated. It just, off the scale with people. And I'm very sad, really serious. And in Liverpool, there's student suicide and everything. So for me personally, most of my first-hand dealings with it was through most of my students, really. And that was, it was like a bolt of lightning, really.
So obviously the LIPA does a great deal of good work in that space. Do you think the people generally out there, the youngsters out there, are really prepared for the realities of the music industry?
I don't think anyone ever is. I still don't even think that we are after 40 years. I mean, for one, it's in constant change, the music industry. People like who go to LIPA, for instance, the students, I'd say probably 99.9% of them have these visions of becoming a celebrity or becoming a star or whatever, and quickly realise that it is that point one that actually does break through, how difficult the industry is and everything. I suppose that doesn't help with the mental health as well, because the pressures can be enormous on, as they can in any walk of life, but especially so in the arts.
So what you obviously want to give them hope, but what dose of realism do you give them as part of your teaching there?
Lots, very much so. I mean, literally, it's, are you sure this is what you want to do? It's a bit of that into literally, maybe it's not the right cause for you, maybe that you shouldn't be that, maybe you should go into maybe just songwriting, or maybe you should be in the management, or maybe you should be a promoter, or maybe you should just go and perform live and enjoy it, but there's a high percentage of people that, pursue. It all depends what price tag you stick on success, really. You can be a successful musician by doing any of them things that I've just mentioned, or successful in the industry. But it depends on how much pressure you put on yourself and what you want to, how do you want to succeed? When is enough enough? That's what
so with you guys, obviously, Nadine's going to sort of ask some questions around the whole touring side of the business. COVID, as you've just mentioned, was a huge disruptor for a lot of people.
Crazy,
One thing that kind of strikes me about the whole mental health issue, and I just want your views about it from a music industry point of view, is that I think mental health has generally become a much more accepted topic. In the sense that people talk about it.
Yeah. It was definitely under the carpet, wasn't it, a few years
But
back?
there still seems, despite that, Eddie, there still seems to be a reluctance for individuals to talk about their own problems. Do you think that's true in the music industry?
I think it's true in any walk of life, really.
Yeah.
I would actually say the opposite, though, in all honesty. I'd say the arts are more kind of open about coming out, because they don't care, you know. Without being rude, it's good to be a little crazy in the art, in this industry that we're in. It's a crazy industry, you know, just to get through it and survive. God, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, you know, and there's a lot of knockbacks. Yeah. It's all of the setbacks as well, and whether you can recover from those setbacks and, you know, and push forward. And that what I said before, find your level of what is success to you, you know, and you're doing great. You know, you're doing 5 shows a week or whatever. You're doing something that you love. You're getting paid for it. That to me is a pretty successful career. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you'd have to be in every magazine or be on the radio or TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
I just wanted to say, you know, we're just talking about, you know, mental health and people in the arts and the creative arts. A lot of people I work with use their art therapeutically. Would you say that you do that?
Oh yeah, since day one. I think writing, any form of writing, perhaps, you know, whether it be a diary or whatever it might be, or a song in our case. It's definitely a way of getting your feelings out. You know, it's just how you shroud them, really. You know, you could be, obviously you can't say, no, I hate you in a song or something like that and say the name or whatever. So you kind of shroud it, you know, and it can be a wonderful thing, actually, songwriting, and very therapeutic.
So in terms of like the songwriting process, how do you start writing a song? You know, with you and Gary particularly.
Instruments usually first. Yeah. The instruments are wonderful. I personally think for mental health, and I have said for all my life, I think every home should have an instrument in it, whether it be a piano, a guitar, or whatever, and use that as the punch bag. You know what I mean? Get your angst out on that rather than your wife or your partner or whatever it might be. So that is generally where we come from. We usually start with the instruments, and then the melody will come, you know, on top of, if you find something that you really like and nice and works harmonically or whatever, then hopefully you'll get a good melody to go with it. And then, like any good story, root through your lyrics and see what's important to you. Yeah. And then spend all your time trying to disguise your lyrics.
That must be fun.
So, do you think it's true that it's easier to write a sad song than a happy song?
It is for me.
But I think I've heard a lot of musicians say it's much easier to write a sad song. Just wondered whether you thought that was true generally.
I can't speak on behalf of other musicians, but I agree with it. Yeah. It is for me.
Because we'll talk about the new album in a bit, but you know the song "Fool," for example, that you wrote, a great song by the way, is melancholy. I think it's fair to say.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I wouldn't say you were wrong there, but yeah.
So you mentioned already that you've just had 40 years in the industry.
Yes.
Congratulations, big congratulations.
Just for getting through one of them is good.
What do you owe that longevity to?
A lot of things. Hard work. We do work probably harder than most bands that I know. Literally, I mean, we never stop touring or playing. We do hundreds of shows a year. Longevity, I think, as well, comes from portfolio. I think we've got, you know, we've done quite a few albums. We've had a lot of success, a lot of hits off all the albums. I think it'd be harder at this day and age to sustain, you know, any kind of longevity if you're a one-hit wonder or whatever. I don't think you could retain an audience, you know, so people come, as you know, like the shows sell out all over the world. And I think that's a lot down to the portfolio of material we have, really.
Yeah, okay. And what advice would you give your younger self in terms of looking after yourself on tour, physically, mentally, and emotionally?
About looking after yourself on tour?
Yeah.
It's like anything, isn't it? It's stay active, stay positive, probably the right diet, try and get as much exercise. I mean, we've all gone through phases where we haven't done any of that, what I've just said, but going back to the longevity thing, the older we're getting in this industry, you can't act like a kid. You can't do it. For one, you just haven't got the strength to do it, and then do all the travelling and then perform for a couple of hours every night. You know, it will make you ill.
Yeah. Talking about your work at LIPA, do you feel like the students have that input now in how to balance
Absolutely not.
The lifestyle? No.
No.
And do you think it's important?
Yeah, I think it is. I think they'll get that through a lot more time in the industry and that. I mean, let's be honest, some of them are still kids and incredibly talented kids. And I don't know any kids, you know, that if you offer them the world, which this industry can, that wouldn't go bing and, you know, and indulge in all its excesses, you know, and all that. And we were no different. We were the same. We were exactly the same. You know, jokingly, we used to turn around and go, well, of course I entered music, I entered rock and roll for sex, drugs and rock and roll. If I wanted to be healthy, I'd go and be a sports star.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I'd go and be a footballer or something, you know, but
that said, I think you do have to be an athlete as a musician.
oh,
and
you
on
do.
tour.
I mean, that's why I said jokingly.
Yeah.
Of course it is jokingly, you know. But it is a very tiring and taxing industry, God. And it's a strange industry as well, because I remember a time, right, when we were like at the peak of our success, and I used to be scared of good news.
Wow.
Now that is weird. I'd be too scared to answer the phone because I was scared that they would say, "You've got Top of the Pops tomorrow," or "You're on this show tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, I am sick. I don't want any more good news." How weird is that? You know, not scared of bad news. Just didn't want any more good news.
It's nice to have the good news, though, to outweigh
It is
the
now.
bad.
Well, fortunately, I can say that now because there's a lot less of it. There's a lot less of the good news, but.
So over those 40 years, then, what has been your most favourite tour that you've ever done, and why?
Favourite tour? Wow. Obviously, we played with some great artists. We played with The Police, was wonderful on the Synchronicity tour. We did the David Bowie Glass Spider tour. That was great. We did Carlos Santana. We did not the Human League, Simple Minds for years and years and years, all over the world, because we had the same management company and the same record label. And they were all amazing in different ways. But what do they enjoy doing the most? I would say, I would say Santana.
Okay.
Only because it was like getting to play Red Rock, you know, in Colorado. It was like, oh my God, you know, some of the places we played with them, and they are huge superstars in the States. You know, they're like the Grateful Dead or something. People just travel to see them through the night, and, you know, and they have a convoy of fans that just go everywhere after them. So that was kind of like a unique experience. It's almost like a cult. You know, like a following, a Santana following. So that was really cool to see all that. But as I say, I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed The Police because I thought Synchronicity was an incredible album.
It is a great album, As a die-hard China Crisis fan, going. You know, have you heard of them? We hear Gary at every gig, every China Crisis gig, telling great stories, and I know you tell a great story as well.
Really?
Would you like to tell us one about your highest high of being on tour? And that's not a reference to any drugs, by the way. It's a reference to a China Crisis song.
That's one of our songs, actually.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Oh God, it's hard. There's been so many. Honestly, there's been so many.
But one.
One great story of being on tour. Okay. Did they ever tell you that my second big love, believe it or not, is trucks, right?
Yeah.
Trucks.
Shirley trucking and things.
Yeah, trucks, proper trucks.
Yeah.
Like, big passion in my life, big part of my life. When I left school, I was a diesel fitter. That's what I started off as when I left school. And I love trucks, right? So when we were touring with Simple Minds and that, which was a bit funny because we were massive at the same time. And this, we're in the south of France, I think we were in Nice or somewhere like that. And we were doing these huge venues and everywhere. And so we're at the top of our fame. And Simple Minds are at the top of their fame and everything. And the truck broke down. So I got onto the truck and I was like, you know, big spanners and everything, fixing the trucks and that. And people were coming out going like sort of, you know, like one of them double looks like, is that who I think it is? That was a great story.
Yeah.
That was fun, but getting back to trucks. The other greatest story, I think, was when my brother was alive. He used to work with his Nicky. We were recording an album called What Price Paradise with Clive Langer and Alan Winstanley, famed for Elvis Costello and The Madness and David Bowie, of course.
Yeah.
So we were in the studio and David Bowie come to the studio to listen because he was good friends with Clive Langer. So he came to the studio and my brother was like the biggest Bowie fan in the world. And he come with Iman, you know, his partner at the time.
Yeah.
So my brother was playing pool and he was just about to take a shot like this and he goes, and looks up and no, he does one of them like double takes and he turns around and goes, Jesus Christ. And Bowie turned around and went, close.
That is a great.
That's a great story.
That is a great story.
It's
Yeah.
true.
So Eddie, if we just move on to the kind of current day, obviously, you know, sell out here tonight. Everyone's still coming to see you, which is brilliant. We all know, it's well documented, there was like a 21-year gap between your 6th album and the most recent one, Autumn in the Neighbourhood.
Wow, yeah.
Although some of the songs I think have been written back in the...
Some of them, yeah. It was literally from
80s.
then to literally months before we released, yeah.
What was the trigger for the album suddenly becoming a reality? What was that spark?
The trigger was actually, you know them, what are they called? Them sites that your fans...
Pledge music.
It was
Yeah.
Pledge Music,
Yeah.
but what they called?
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So that was the catalyst. What it was is, because I didn't want to record the album. Gary wanted to record the album. Gary was trying to do his solo album, and he could never do it. He couldn't get it done. And the songs, some of the songs ended up being on the Cherry Crisis album that he was working on, you know. But the catalyst was... we thought we could have a get-out clause with the crowdfunding. How it works, it's quite unique in a way, actually. So basically, you set a target, right? And that could be, say, hypothetically, £20,000, right?
Yeah.
Now, so you've got £20,000 roughly for the budget then to record the album, do the artwork, manufacture it, do whatever you've got to do and get it out for the 20,000. But if you don't raise 60, so you've got to work within 60% of it. So basically, you should be able to do it. So for 10 and 10%, you should be able to do it for like about, say, 12,000. That's your safety net, right?
Yeah.
So you set it at 20,000. If you get past, say, 12,000, then you'll have to do the album. Right?
Okay, so you were hoping it was going to stop short, were
We
you?
thought it would stop short, right? So I was going, yes, we've got to get out clause here. If we don't get to 60%, we don't have to do the album. We don't have to do it, that kind of thing, right? So we announced it, and in the first week, it done like 350%, and we went, oh, shit, we've got to do it, we've got to do the album.
But that's testimony to the longevity we were talking about earlier,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
I mean,
But we were thinking, or I was thinking anyway, who wants another China Crisis album? We've done enough. Got nothing to prove.
it's a bloody good album.
Yeah.
So
It
It
was
is. I'm
worth
so
the
glad.
wait.
Honest to God, I'm so glad. To me, it's like Flaunt the Imperfection too.
It is.
It's right up there. It's a beautiful album.
It's generally magical. So the earliest China Crisis was backdrop to my university years and my first year at work. And then, like a lot of people, I guess, I kind of just drifted into the background and I lost track of what you guys were doing. And then, because of today, picked up the new album, and I've been listening to it on loop for the last 3 days. I just think it's a magical album.
Yeah, we are very, very proud of it, and I'm so glad that we pushed through with it and we did it and completed it.
So what are plans as we look forward to 2023? What's next?
Well, we've got such a tour schedule. You know, literally in the books now until November 2023, believe it or not. We're off to Australia and that next month, and New Zealand. We've got to go to everywhere, Mexico, back to the States, back to Canada again, and Mexico, and all the UK shows, possibly South Africa. We're talking about now. So there's a lot of touring. We've had bits of ideas what we've been doing over the lockdown thing.
Yeah.
And Gary, just funny enough, just yesterday was saying, interesting, maybe we should record them tracks. So, is there any more time? You know, is there time to go and record? I don't know. I think I would. I think I'll do another album again. I think we'll do that.
Well, we all hope so.
I don't know when it'll be released or whatever. But we've just done obviously we did that the anniversary DVD thing, which was great. We have actually got another album there that we haven't released yet, which is basically it's like a classical, not a classical album. It's classical versions, I suppose, not classical version. Full enhanced string ensembles and all real strings and that, of songs that we've done. And unusual songs that people hadn't heard, not just the usual another best of it, but it has got Black Man Ray on it, and it has got King in the Catholic Style and Wishful Thinking, but it's got really obscure tracks on it as well, which people haven't heard, that we've orchestrated.
Is this an instrumental, or is this with...
No, it's got vocals in there as well.
Brilliant.
We just approach the songs differently.
When's that coming out, do you think?
I think we were going to do it near Christmas, December, I think. I think what we might do instead is just drop a song first off it, and it'll probably be next year. It's just sitting there, so it will come out. It will come out at some point.
Okay, Eddie, so we now come to the all-important questions, culminating with the final question, what's my vinyl answer? This is really about your loves for other musicians, so I think, Nadine, you're going to kick us off, aren't you? Yeah.
So tell us, what was your first album that you ever bought for yourself?
It would have been a David Bowie album. It wouldn't have been the first single. My first single was definitely a David Cassidy single.
David Cassidy. Which one?
Could It Be Forever, I think it was. Could It Be Forever?
Have you still got it?
No. But I remember it was on the Bell label, I think it was. So it had the silver thing with like a bell on it,
Same as the Glitter Band.
Yeah.
They were on the Bell label too.
The Glitter Band.
No, we probably shouldn't, but it's the same label.
But it'd be a David Bowie album.
Yeah.
Definitely. I became a huge David Bowie fan, so I couldn't turn around and tell you whether it was Ziggy or whether it was, Diamond Dogs or something like that, because I ended up, once I got one Bowie album, I ended up getting everything. I just became besotted with Bowie.
So I guess what I'm struggling with, Eddie, is you buying Bowie on the one hand but David Cassidy on the other. Were you just a bit squiffy one night or something?
No, my spectrum in music would blow your mind. Literally, I like anything that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, God, you have no idea. I think David Cassidy was cool. What's wrong with you, man?
He was cool.
I was more of a Slade man than a David Cassidy man.
Slade as well,
yeah. So listen, I guess that leads us nicely into the next question, which is, if you're kind of an evening and you're sitting down, you're thinking, what album am I going to put on? What's the album you keep coming back to? What's your favourite album if you had to pick one?
Steely Dan.
It's
got to be. Well, do you know what? It's a tough choice. I am going to go for.
Pretzel?
No.
Asia?
Asia. I'm going to go for Asia, but it would be a toss-up between Asia, Gaucho, or the Donald Fagen solo album, Nightfly, or something like that.
Okay.
But I will go with Asia.
Yeah. Okay. Nice choice.
It's one that I always go back to.
And the thing I particularly love about vinyl, and the reason I'm just so happy it's come back and we're now back in that space again, is that, the experience when you went and bought it and you were,
cool, wasn't it?
If it was gatefold, you were really excited, and
Absolutely.
you got the lyric sheet and all that kind of excitement.
I used to save up my dinner money from school, so I wouldn't think, I wouldn't buy any dinner at school, and I'd save up my dinner money, And then when I had the money at the end of the week, I'd go to the record shop and buy a record instead.
So thinking about the visual side of it, because everyone's always excited to see what the album cover is going to look like for their favourite artist. Yeah. What's the one album cover you would pick if you had to pick one?
That is so stands out.
Yeah. So if you've talked about your favourite album, what about a favourite album cover?
Favourite album cover? There's so many good ones, isn't there? And I actually like this subject because I actually buy them album books, with just the sleeves in, and I go and I look at Peter Saville's stuff, and Peter Saville's done some great stuff, who actually did our first album, Difficult Shapes, and he did a lot of the factory stuff, factory records and all that. But if you're talking like, I mean, there's so many, isn't there? Because you can talk about, whether it be your favourite or whether you're talking just iconic. And, Sgt. Pepper is iconic. Everyone knows Sgt. Pepper. I would probably Bowie on the Ziggy Stardust with the phone box and all that kind of thing. It's just like, ding. Only because it was perhaps like the happiest, music moments in my life. Whoa, I've got Ziggy Stardust.
It's funny, you can always remember where you were, can't you? That sort of teenage period, and you're growing up, and all those emotions are starting to come to the fore. When that music hits, you could think, oh, I remember where I was when I first heard that.
Yeah,
amazing.
And also as well, it is an important thread, the art, the sleeve design, sleeve wear, because you could almost tell, when you went into the record shop and you're looking through, and you could tell certain artists just by the sleeves, because you knew the continuity was right through their catalogue, I suppose.
Yeah.
So who have you seen, or who would you like to see in concert most?
Who have I seen?
Yeah, could be alive, gone, but who would you have most liked to have seen?
Who I never got to see. I'll tell you what, there is a few there, because, obviously I've seen some. I was looking to see Prince, I've seen Michael Jackson, and, the great memories, and obviously Bowie and all that kind of thing, and the Police, Sting and all that kind of stuff. I've never seen the Rolling Stones. I have never seen, obviously, the Beatles, but I have seen Paul McCartney. I have never seen Stevie Wonder. So there is these like iconic, artists that I'd love to see. I'd love to see Stevie Wonder. I would have loved to see Bob Marley. I would imagine in that day, it would have been incredibly, spiritual or something like that. But I'd say all them. I'd like to see the Stones. I'd like, I could probably still get to see the Stones and Stevie because they're still playing. Yeah. But unfortunately, there's people gone that you'll never get to see.
Yeah. And I guess who would you like to most collaborate with, or who would you have liked to have collaborated with, or you may have even collaborated with?
I think we did. We're doing 2 albums with the Steely Dan boys with Walter Becker, and that was a collaboration made in heaven. Yeah. For one, they're like my favourite group in the whole world. I know people say never work with like your heroes or whatever, but it was amazing. It was great working with Walter and that. That was great.
Thank you.
So, last couple of questions, crunch time really. So, we've talked about the fact that we're trying to raise awareness of mental health, but we're really trying to make the connection between music and mental health, and sort of let people know that music is a great, outlet. It's a great release, or it can be. So one thing we're doing with everyone we interview is we're asking them to nominate 3 albums for what we call our virtual vinyl vault.
I think you can probably already guess mine at the moment.
Well, I've got a sneaking feeling what your 3 might be, but essentially we're looking for you to nominate albums that you think will be great in the context. For example, someone is a bit in a reflective mood, someone wants a bit of escapism.
Yep, okay.
What would you pick?
Well, okay, and that is a great question, because all 3 albums that I've chosen are different for different moods as well. So Asia, I would always go back to Steely Dan, just because harmonic, it's beautiful. It's incredibly, possibly one of the most professional pop albums ever recorded. Not just in sound recording technology-wise, but in performance, playing. If you're ever going to aspire to be a musician, you should listen to Asia. And also, fantastic songs on it.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I'd say, it is kind of that mid-tempo album. It hasn't got any racy tracks and that on it.
Yeah.
So that for that mood. Ziggy Stardust, simply for, whoa, what was that when it came along? It was like, who is this? You know, incredible songs again. Just an incredible artist, and his writing particularly at that time, I think was just leagues above anyone else at the time. And finally, for the high energy one, I would go for Synchronicity.
Okay. Memories of the tour.
Memories of the tour, but also I wasn't lying before when I said it. I think it's an astonishing album.
Yeah. So Eddie, the final question we ask, hence the what's your vinyl answer, is if you think about your career,
Yes.
and you think about all the albums you've created as a group, and thinking about in the context of our charity and mental health, which is the one record you would suggest that we kept in our store? Which one record would you donate to make a difference with records?
It would be Autumn in the Neighbourhood. The reason being, for one, I think it's a great album.
Yeah.
Two, it's really difficult to get hold of, so it should be in a vault. You know,
I just asked you to give me one of your last two copies. Not to give me, I'm going to buy it off you. So,
well, you know how difficult it is to get hold of. I mean, if it was Flaunt the Imperfection, people could go up the high street and buy it in HMV.
Yeah.
There's not much really any point in putting that in a vault, so whatever. Go and get it from HMV.
Yeah.
So Autumn in the Neighbourhood, I think it's right up there with the best work we've done. It's also
as if by magic.
Oh, there you go.
We have.
What a beautiful.
We
and you were
have
talking about gatefolds.
Exactly. I think
it's a gatefold.
Now, can you just tell me about the artwork actually on the album? Now you've got it in front of you.
Yes.
Who did the artwork on it?
It's an artist, and this is a town in Norway called I think it's called Bremen.
Bremen. Yeah.
And it actually looks exactly like this. This particular painting was hanging in the church in Liverpool.
Oh wow!
So someone had done it, and Gary got a copy of it, asked the people and all that, and they allowed us to use the painting for the artwork.
Yeah.
So that's a little village in Norway.
Wow.
So on the other hand, is the Wirral Peninsula.
Is that West Kirby or
that's
something?
That's West Kirby, yeah.
It is West Kirby.
And that's Gary and Jean.
Yeah, my wife's family come from Clawton down the road from West Kirby, so I know it well.
This is West Kirby, basically. Parkgate area.
Yeah, I know Parkgate, yeah.
It's a great album. That kind of got me back into China Crisis again, because
I think we did a smashing job.
You did. I bought it, put it in my car, and I didn't take it out of my car for I listened to it every day for about a year.
And I was saying to you earlier that I literally have had this on loop for about 4 days, and I didn't know what to expect. I genuinely didn't know what to expect.
We are very proud of it.
And you know, things like the variety, so that the brass in it is,
is
wonderful.
We never cut any corners. That was one of the problems that, you know, going back to the pledge thing and all that, the thing that I did dislike about the crowdfunding things, where I'm not naming names or accusing anyone, but a lot of people did. They would take the crowdfunding and they would like throw an album together that would sound like a load of demos or something, you know. And I kind of hated that. And we went into this with, if we're going to do another album after we've done Flaunt and we've done Diary and work with Steely Dan and done all these things, there is no way we're cutting any corners. It has got to sound great. We've got to get the best people. We're going to think, and that's what we did. We put all our efforts into it. So I'm proud of it for that reason as well.
And so you should be. It really shows. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful album. And thank you very much for the donation.
Thank you for speaking to me.
And Eddie, well, thank you for really making your time. I know it's a very, very busy, high pressure being on the road. So really thank you very much for making your time today.
Thank you. And thank you.
And echo everything he said. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram under Make a Difference with Records, where you can also find updates on new stock and future podcasts. The Creative Well can also be found on Instagram and at thecreativewell.com.